ever walk into a room and just own it? We're going deep on the science behind that feeling with Vanessa Van Edwards' Captivate. We'll skip the small talk and decode how you can make a killer first impression. That's right, you're getting a cheat sheet for charisma.
What fascinates me about Van Edwards' approach is that it's not smoke and mirrors. She dives into the psychology and even neuroscience behind why certain tactics work. You're not just memorizing lines, you're understanding the human connection playbook.
And she kicks things off with this idea of a social game plan. Now, I'm not usually one for overthinking things, but this isn't about being fake. It's about setting yourself up for success, right?
Precisely. Think of it like this. Even athletes have home turf advantage. Van Edwards talks about identifying your thrive locations, those spots where you feel most confident. Ever notice how some people always seem to be in the right place at the right time? It's not always luck.
So, instead of getting stuck at the snack table like me, guilty, aim for what Van Edwards calls the social zone. Where is this magical zone, you ask?
Think about the natural flow of a room. Most people congregate near entrances or the bar, feeling a bit trapped. But the social zone is where people are more relaxed, more open to genuine interaction. Often it's near the exit. People are about to leave, their body language opens up, and they're more likely to engage in meaningful conversation.
That's such a fascinating observation. I'm already rethinking my usual networking game plan. But okay, let's say you found the social zone. You're ready to mingle. How do you make sure your first impression is a home run?
Van Edwards breaks down a concept she calls the triple threat. And it's all about using your body language to your advantage. We're talking hands, posture, eye contact. These seemingly small things speak volumes before you even say a word.
It's like our bodies are already speaking a secret language. Give us the inside scoop. What are some power moves we can try?
Let's start with hands. Instead of fidgeting or crossing your arms, which can signal defensiveness, try the hand steeple. Pressing your fingertips together like you're about to make a point conveys confidence and authority.
Okay, I'm steepling as we speak. What about posture?
Van Edwards recommends the launch stance. Feet shoulder-width apart, arms uncrossed, upper body open. This signals approachability without sacrificing your confidence.
And eye contact, that's a big one, right? How much is too much, too little?
Direct eye contact conveys trustworthiness, but too much can be intense. Aim for a comfortable balance, holding someone's gaze for a beat longer than usual before looking away briefly. It shows you're engaged without being creepy.
These are such practical takeaways. I feel like I can already see how these subtle shifts could change the entire vibe of an interaction.
It's about being intentional with the signals you're sending. But Captivate doesn't stop there. Van Edwards goes on to tackle the art of, get this, speed reading people's personalities.
Okay, that sounds a little spooky, but I'm intrigued. Is she teaching us to be mind readers now?
Not exactly, but she does break down a framework that's been studied for decades. The big 5 personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
So instead of going in blind, we can use these traits as a sort of cheat sheet to understand where someone might be coming from.
Exactly. Imagine being able to tailor your communication based on whether someone is naturally introverted or extroverted, detail-oriented, or a big-picture thinker.
It's like having a secret decoder ring for human interaction. Let's break down each of these big 5 traits, starting with openness.
Openness is all about a person's willingness to try new things and embrace new ideas. Think about how someone talks about their experiences. Do they seek out adventure or prefer familiar routines?
I'm starting to think this is where I overshare about my latest culinary experiment. Good or bad? But you're saying even our taste in food can be a clue to our openness.
Absolutely. Even someone's physical space can offer hints. A high openness person might have eclectic decor, while someone lower in openness might prefer a more minimalist, predictable style.
It's amazing how much we reveal about ourselves without even realizing it. Okay, what about conscientiousness? What does that look like in action?
Think organization, planning, attention to detail. The highly conscientious person lives by their color-coded planner, while someone lower in conscientiousness might be more spontaneous, even if it means occasionally missing a deadline.
This is SO me. I thrive in chaos, but I've learned to appreciate those highly conscientious people who keep me somewhat on track.
And that's the beauty of understanding these traits. It's not about judging, it's about appreciating the differences and learning to leverage them.
Okay, so we've got openness and conscientiousness. What about everyone's favorite topic? Extroversion.
This one's often misunderstood. It's not just about being outgoing, it's about where you draw your energy from. Extroverts are energized by social interaction, while introverts often recharge in solitude.
It's funny, we often think of charisma as this inherently extroverted trait, but some of the most captivating people I know are introverts. They just do it in their own way.
Precisely. A high extroversion person might command attention in a crowded room, while someone lower in extroversion might be a brilliant listener who shines in one-on-one conversations.
Recognizing those differences can completely change how you approach someone. Okay, on to agreeableness. This one seems pretty self-explanatory, right?
It's more nuanced than just being nice. Highly agreeable people prioritize harmony and go out of their way to avoid conflict. Those lower in agreeableness are more comfortable voicing their opinions, even if it ruffles feathers.
It's that classic people pleaser versus straight shooter dynamic. Both approaches have their strengths, but knowing where someone falls on that spectrum can help you navigate potential misunderstandings.
It's about meeting people where they are. And finally, we have neuroticism, which, despite the name, is about being neurotic in a negative way.
Yeah, that's a word that gets thrown around a lot. What's the real deal with neuroticism?
It's really about sensitivity to stress and negative emotions. Highly neurotic individuals tend to experience things more intensely, while those lower in neuroticism are generally calmer and less reactive.
This makes me think of that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. We all experience anxieties differently.
Exactly. And understanding these differences is crucial for building empathy and navigating challenging conversations. But remember, we're only scratching the surface here.
There's a whole lot more to unpack, right? I'm ready for the next level of this human connection playbook. So we've explored the Big Five, this fascinating way of understanding personality differences. But Van Edwards doesn't stop there. She dives even deeper with something she calls the appreciation matrix.
It's fascinating how this connects back to a popular concept, the 5 love languages. You see, it's not just about romantic relationships. It's about understanding how people across the board feel valued and appreciated.
Okay, I've heard of the love languages, but I always thought it was more of a relationship advice kind of thing. How does this apply to, say, a work environment or just casual interactions?
Think of it like this. Just as we all have different communication styles, we also have different ways of receiving appreciation. Someone might say, "Great job," and for one person, that's music to their ears. But for someone else, it might fall flat.
So it's not enough to just be well-intentioned. We have to be intentional about how we express appreciation.
Exactly. Van Edwards breaks down the 5 appreciation languages as words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And each one represents a different way of feeling valued.
Give us a few examples. What are some telltale signs that someone might prioritize acts of service over, say, words of affirmation?
Let's say a colleague helps you meet a tight deadline. Someone who values acts of service might show their appreciation by offering to return the favor in a practical way, like taking on an extra task or lending a helping hand on their colleague's next big project.
Whereas someone who thrives on words of affirmation would probably prefer a heartfelt thank you or public acknowledgement of their hard work.
Precisely. They find value in verbal expressions of gratitude and recognition. And then you have those who cherish receiving gifts. It's not about materialism, it's about the thoughtfulness behind the gesture.
A small, meaningful gift can really brighten someone's day. I'm remembering a time a colleague brought me back a special tea from a trip abroad. It was such a simple gesture, but it meant the world to me.
And that's the beauty of tapping into this matrix. It allows us to personalize our interactions, making them more meaningful. Now, let's not forget about quality time. For some, dedicated, uninterrupted time together is the most valuable gift you can give.
This one really resonates with me. A phone-free dinner with a friend, really being present in the moment, that's what makes me feel most connected.
It's about making someone feel like they have your undivided attention, that you genuinely value their company. And finally, we have physical touch, which, and I emphasize this, is not just about intimacy.
Right, we're not talking about inappropriate workplace hugs.
Exactly. It's about understanding that for some, appropriate physical touch, a handshake, a pat on the back, even a high five, can strengthen a connection.
It's like you're literally solidifying the bond. I'm starting to see how understanding these different languages could completely transform our interactions from how we express gratitude to how we build rapport.
It's about fine-tuning your approach, speaking directly to what resonates with the individual. And this leads us to another powerful hack Van Edwards highlights, the highlighter.
Okay, tell us more. How do we become highlighters in our everyday lives?
Think of it this way. Everyone has a unique set of strengths and talents. The highlighter is all about recognizing those strengths in others and reflecting them back to them. It's about genuine praise that goes beyond superficial compliments.
So instead of just saying, "You're great," we get specific. It's about saying, "I really admire your way of explaining complex ideas in a way that anyone can understand," or "Your ability to stay calm under pressure is incredible."
You've got it. It's about being observant, noticing what truly sets someone apart, and then acknowledging those strengths in a way that feels authentic and meaningful.
It's funny how a simple compliment can make someone's day, boost their confidence. I'm wondering if Van Edwards ties this highlighter hack to any historical figures or well-known examples.
She does. She mentions President Truman, who's a great example of someone who found his sweet spot by leveraging his strengths, even if they weren't the most flashy. He was known for his down-to-earth style, connecting with voters one-on-one, and it ultimately led him to victory.
That's such a powerful reminder that authenticity is key. It's about recognizing your own strengths and using them to your advantage. But sometimes that means being willing to admit when we don't have all the answers, which leads us to another fascinating concept, the Franklin effect.
This one's a bit counterintuitive. We often think that to be seen as competent and likable, we need to have all the answers right. But Van Edwards argues that sometimes asking for advice can actually make you more likable.
Wait, really? How does that work?
When you ask someone for advice, you're subtly complimenting their expertise, their judgment. It's a sign of respect and trust, and it often triggers a sense of reciprocity. They feel good about helping you, and it strengthens the bond between you.
That's so interesting. It reminds me of the saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Showing a genuine interest in someone's perspective can go a long way.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a transactional mindset to a relational one. And speaking of understanding how people tick, Van Edwards dives into the fascinating world of nonverbal communication in her chapter on decoding.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting. Is she teaching us to read minds?
Not quite mind reading, but she does delve into the science of microexpressions. These are fleeting facial expressions that can reveal a wealth of information about someone's emotional state, even if they're trying to mask their true feelings.
So it's like those poker faces we see in movies, where someone's trying to keep a straight face, but their eyes are betraying their true emotions.
Exactly. It's those subtle cues that often leak through our subconscious. Van Edwards points out 7 universal microexpressions: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, and contempt. Learning to recognize these can give you a deeper understanding of how your message is truly landing.
That's incredible. But how do we learn to spot these micro-expressions? They happen so fast.
It takes practice, but Van Edwards offers some helpful tips. One is to pay attention to specific facial features: the crinkling around the eyes for genuine happiness, the furrowing of the brows for concern, the tightening of the lips for anger.
So it's about becoming a student of human behavior, paying attention to those subtle cues that we often miss in our fast-paced world.
Precisely. And while it's not about becoming a human lie detector, understanding these micro-expressions can make you a more empathetic and insightful communicator.
It's like adding another layer to our emotional intelligence. This is all fascinating stuff, but I have to ask, does Van Edwards offer any advice for those times when, despite our best efforts, a conversation just feels off? You know, those interactions where you're putting in all the effort, but it's like talking to a brick wall.
Absolutely. Van Edwards tackles this head-on with a concept she calls big talk. It's about breaking free from the conversational rut, the small talk, the predictable questions, and really sparking genuine interest.
I am so with you on ditching the small talk. So how do we make that leap from, how about this weather, to a truly engaging conversation?
It starts with asking the right questions. Instead of, what do you do? Try something like, what's a project you're really excited about right now?
Yeah.
Or what's something you're learning that's blowing your mind?
Those are great. You instantly shift the focus from the mundane to something much more personal and engaging.
Exactly. It's about tapping into people's passions. Van Edwards also suggests identifying what she calls hot buttons, those topics or keywords that light people up. Imagine you're at a party and you mention you love to hike. Suddenly, the person next to you lights up and launches into a story about their latest trek. That's a hot button.
It's like finding that secret handshake that unlocks a whole new level of connection. Reminds me of something else Van Edwards emphasizes: the power of storytelling.
That's right. Stories are incredibly powerful because they tap into our emotions and create a shared experience. Think about some of your most memorable conversations. Chances are they involved stories.
Absolutely. It's those anecdotes, those personal experiences that make us feel seen and heard. It's not about launching into a lengthy monologue, though, right?
No, it's about finding those moments that are relevant to the conversation and using them to create a connection. Van Edwards suggests building what she calls a story stack, a collection of your most engaging anecdotes.
So if someone mentions they're feeling stressed about a presentation, you might share a story about a time you bombed a talk but learned a valuable lesson from the experience.
Exactly. It's about vulnerability and relatability. And a good story has structure. Van Edwards breaks it down as hook, struggle, and resolution, just like a good movie.
Okay, so we've covered big talk, hot buttons, and storytelling. What other nuggets of wisdom does Van Edwards offer for transforming our interactions?
She brings up a fascinating concept called the primary value, the driving force behind a person's decisions and actions.
Oh, this sounds intriguing. It's like figuring out someone's internal operating system. Tell us more.
Van Edwards identifies 6 primary values: love, service, status, goods, information, and knowledge. Each one represents a different way of seeing the world. For example, someone driven by service finds fulfillment in helping others.
While someone motivated by status might be driven by achievement and recognition. It's like a lens through which they interpret the world. How can we use this knowledge to improve our interactions?
Once you understand someone's primary value, you can tailor your communication to resonate with what matters most to them. Imagine you're trying to get a colleague excited about a new project. If their primary value is knowledge, you might emphasize the learning opportunities it offers.
But if their primary value is goods, you might highlight the potential financial rewards or the chance to work with cutting-edge equipment.
Exactly. It's about speaking their language. Now, Van Edwards doesn't shy away from those trickier aspects of human interaction. She dedicates a whole chapter to difficult people, and it's full of helpful strategies.
We've all encountered them, those people who seem to drain our energy and make every interaction a challenge.
Van Edwards' approach is refreshing because she doesn't just label them as difficult. She delves into the why behind their behavior.
Okay, so there's a method to the madness. Give us the inside scoop.
She uses the acronym NUT jobs: needy, unstable, and troubled. And while it might sound a bit harsh, it's really about reframing our perspective.
Yeah.
These individuals are often driven by fear, and their behavior is a defense mechanism.
So instead of meeting their negativity with more negativity, we can approach them with empathy.
Exactly. Van Edwards suggests a 3-step system: naming, understanding, and transforming to navigate these challenging interactions.
Walk us through it. What does each step entail?
Naming is about acknowledging their emotional state. You seem frustrated. Understanding is about digging deeper, what's making you feel so overwhelmed. And transforming is about finding a way to move forward constructively. Let's brainstorm some solutions together.
It's about de-escalating the situation and shifting from a place of conflict to a place of collaboration.
Precisely. It's about remembering that we're all human, we all have our struggles. But sometimes, despite our best efforts, certain relationships are just toxic.
It's that age-old saying, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family, or in some cases, your colleagues.
Exactly. And Van Edwards makes it clear that sometimes the healthiest thing we can do is to create distance from those relationships.
Easier said than done, but a valuable reminder nonetheless. So we've covered a lot of ground, from speed-reading personalities to understanding appreciation languages to decoding body language to navigating challenging interactions. What's the key takeaway, the golden thread that ties all of these insights together?
I think it's about approaching every interaction with a sense of curiosity and empathy. It's about recognizing that everyone has a story, everyone is fighting their own battles, and when we lead with that understanding, we open ourselves up to deeper connections and more meaningful relationships.
Captivate truly lives up to its name. It's been an eye-opening journey through the science of human connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we all have the power to become more captivating communicators, to build rapport, to inspire trust, and to leave a lasting positive impact on the people we meet.
So as you navigate your next interaction, remember to tap into that curiosity, that empathy. Who knows what fascinating connections you might forge?